So some of you know I've been talking with Andy Cizek of Monuments for quite some time. This guy has some amazing videos about how to scream, how to sing high on his YouTube channel. We started talking about the possibility of doing a course together, and then Nick Nocturnal dropped Termina Inside My Walls featuring Andy Cizek. And the first thing I did was text Andy and was like, maybe we should watch this together, because Andy's insights into what he's doing, both from the recording aspect and the vocalizations, would be really interesting. Welcome
Chris,
very much to the channel.
Thank you for having me, man.
Also, for those of you wanting to go deeper with this song and hear Andy's vocals by themselves, you can click the link below in the description and download the isolated vocals. So you get to hear all the production nuances. I haven't heard that yet either. That's the first thing I'm going to do after watching this video.
In your eyes, they hide behind your veil and tell a solemn tale, but I see through it.
Okay, we got to go back. And I have a couple questions about the video, but are you, when you're snapping back and forth between those high, upper chesty mixed notes and the no voice screams, because you had like a low in there.
Yeah.
I've heard you do stuff like that in one takes and stuff like that on your shorts. For this recording, are you punching those in?
I like to do the sections like the one you just heard in one take through, so that way it sounds fluid. So we're not just like going punch.
Yeah.
Because I want that consistency. I want it to be a connected line.
Right.
So when you hear that high or that mid that's coming in, that fully distorted scream, I'm basically just doing what I feel is like a pitched scream, but I'm turning the distortion up to 11, so there is sort of a semblance of a note in there, but it's so dirtied up that you really you hear the grit. And then after that first initial line, I'm pulling back the scream distortion and just sort of laying 50-50 into my chesty mixed voice and the distortion over top of that for the sung notes.
So for this section, at least, what makes this possible is that you're leaving your primary chords engaged the whole time. You're not totally removing them, and that helps you snap back and forth easily. That's what it sounds like. Okay.
Yeah. I think that they're always slightly engaged, or at least sort of in the dugout, waiting just to jump back in.
Yeah.
And for me, it feels like a knob that I'm turning and then dialing back and sort of just trying to mix the perfect balance.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay, going back.
They hide behind your veil and tell a solemn tale, but I see through it.
Now those never falters, that's a separate track, of course. Those are layers behind.
Yeah.
And those are those lows, note removed. So what you're saying is your main line, anything we hear is your main line. You try to do that in as much of a one take as possible and then layer around it.
Exactly. So you're hearing on the I too, you've got the low tracks, the pan left and right, backings. Then you hear the singing notes, and then with that never falter, the lows come back in as separate LR tracks.
Yeah, so cool. Did you write all the melody here, or is this something that you're coming in and just singing?
Yeah. I definitely would basically when I heard the instrumental, sort of wrote it in my head, and then when I went in to do the lyrics, I deliberately chose specific notes to sort of fit around that motif.
Oh, and you're doing all the vocal production yourself and all the recording in that space we see you in right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I will go through and mess with my ideal effects after I do all the editing, and then I'll send it over to our mixing engineer, and he'll kind of have his way with reproducing but changing them to fit the mix that he's crafting himself.
Okay, so the effects that we hear, like you're singing with some effects to make you comfortable and laying down everything, but the effects that we're hearing here are ones that your mix engineer has crafted around the whole part.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've already gone through and meticulously comped and edited my own takes.
Okay.
And then I just build like an example for him to really do the nitty gritty.
Nice. Okay. What's that extra metallic sound he's got over your main line there?
So I think if you're talking about, are you talking about the layered harmony, or are you just talking about the character of the vocal itself?
The character of the main vocal, it's like up there, it sounds more metallic and more, I don't know, focused than it did earlier. Like there's some other thing. Is that just a verb or a...
I'm not sure. I mean, it could be a number of things, because when I do those that specific style of sing scream, usually I'll double up on it. So you get like it'll often be like a double center, and also maybe some left right stuff going on, but that double kind of creates almost like a phasey sort of effect with the and it's already kind of dual toned in and of itself, so you're putting like two dual tone tracks on top of each other, and it kind of creates this sparkle that I like.
That's exactly what I'm hearing is like a two centers, two doubles, like right there, and it creates this like coursing, flanging. It's a really cool sound.
I sort of took a page from Chester Bennington in Linkin Park with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
To die, but I will find you.
There's so much going on there. So much range. I got to hear that section again. I want to hear you talk about it. There's your lows. There's like your Will Ramos lows there, right? And I'm even like, in some of those, listening to it, the second time I was like moving my tongue in different places as I heard you do different things. And then you're going from the lows to the highs. I don't hear any pitch screams there like I did when you were doing the normal main line earlier.
Right.
Can you detail your thought processes for going into those pitchless, no-note, vocal cords removed sounds, like the lows and the highs, in sections like that where you're bouncing around so much? Because as I've been working on my extreme vocals, that is one of the hardest things to do, because I try to get things dialed in for my low, and I feel like I kind of get stuck in that vocal posture. And then when I try to do highs, or then I try to bounce over to pitch screams, there's so many coordinations that need to change that I move that fast. What have you done
Sure.
to develop that agility?
Well, it's sort of a different ball game with live versus studio
Sure.
stuff, as you know, of course. But when I'm trying to do this stuff and track these lines, my approach is to find sort of a median placement where I can touch these different spectrums of my range without having to re-coordinate too much.
Okay.
So I'm sort of, even with the lows, like those really brutal noteless ones that you hear switching up to the high.
Yeah, right.
I still have like a similar placement and sensation, and then
Okay.
90% of it I think is just mouth shape and like you
Right.
said, like the tongue doing different things to channel those canals, and I can make my mouth pretty wide as well and pretty narrow for the different ranges of highs and lows. So that really helps drive the pitch of it, if you will.
Yeah, so it goes back to what a lot of these other guys have been saying, is that so much more of it is mouth shape than it is a different source.
Yes.
Right? Like
yeah.
your
Absolutely.
Your source is basically the same, but what you're doing with your mouth and your tongue, the filter is drawing that variety out. When we're talking about the note-free or vocal cords removed sorts of screams, when you've got the pitch in there, even if just a tiny bit, like you're talking about, you've got that other aspect which helps you define range as well.
Yep.
I got to hear that whole section again. Just.
All right.
I like those lower harmonies, and is there an octave lower double in there too?
Yeah. I love to really beef up my choruses, so I'll start with like a low octave, and then depending on how high the main is, maybe I'll add a mid in there. Or if the main itself is a bit lower, I like to sometimes do accents of the highs. So there's all sorts of flavors and colors, and once you dig into the isolated track, you'll be able to hear how I crafted that stuff.
Yeah, that'll be really fun to listen to. Talk a little bit about your approach to your massive high range. Like you've got a little higher pitch center on your speaking voice. You know, if we were to classify you, you'd be an obvious tenor.
Sure, yeah.
But you're able to extend up into mixed voice so seamlessly, add the heat, add the grit, and then, of course, transition to these screams like not many other singers can out there. How have you trained this into your voice?
Oh, man, it took me a long time. I remember when I first started singing in the earlier years when I was doing bands as a teenager, I really could only figure out how to sing up to like a B flat.
Yeah.
And then my chest would top out, and I didn't know how to get past that wall for a really long time. So I did some like speech therapy stuff to learn how to properly breathe, because I wasn't doing my voice any favors. And through that, it allowed me to really find out how to regulate and control and find my head voice, where I was not doing any head voice stuff. And just pushing full chest for a while. So once I started practicing that, I was able to I had this middle ground of nothing. It was like a blank. How do I fill out this range? And I started to be able to close that gap between my head voice and my chest voice to where it started to feel like a fluid mix.
Yeah.
And it's like your video on it, where you're talking about your Sleep Token cover. I feel like that covers it extremely well. I did that sort of training, and I would do like sort of like going up and through from my chest to my head until I could comfortably just land on those notes.
Right. Feel
without having
feel it.
just training so you can grab it, you can punch it right away, and it just took a lot of practice and trial and error, and I would do a lot of covers that had those vocals to push myself out of my comfort zone, to add that sound to my repertoire just through jumping in the deep end until I figured it out.
So, if I could paraphrase what you're saying, you can confirm or
please
deny
do.
this. Like, you didn't expand your range by trying to hit certain notes. Rather, it was learning to breathe, learning to support well, finding an awareness of your head voice, and then constantly working the float between your head resonance and your chest resonance, as opposed to like going out and trying to find a song like, I gotta hit that D5 or whatever. Did that ever work for you?
No, I think whenever I would try to I have to figure out how to sing that high mentally, it didn't click. But I was trying to find new ways to phonate and just access a different part of my range that was outside of the box that I was stuck in for a long time.
Yeah.
And again, it's like you were saying, like, when you just kind of talk in different ranges and exercise that, and really a lot of stuff with the face too. Not just because I would sing so forward all the time and out, and that was the only way I knew how. And when I started kind of manipulating the resonance and the feeling, exactly. And then I realized, wait, if that's coming out of me, and I'm not singing or I'm not really trying to hit that note, there's got to be a way to access this as effortlessly as I'm doing now, just messing around and and then from then on, it was like carving out that marble block of tone, so I could control it properly.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, you have mastered it more than a lot of singers. Even with this approach that you're talking about, lots of guys don't. They don't get as free with it. I think comparison can be a problem there, But yeah, you've done a fantastic job exploring your voice. It's cool to hear that you are trained, right? It's not like you've had years of other vocal coaching or anything like that, but you have been a student of your own voice. These aren't things that you've done that you just always did or did naturally. These are things that you trained into your voice. That is super encouraging. All right.
Yeah, and hey man, but before we continue, I just want to say that the whole being free thing, I feel that so much with your videos and your content.
Thanks.
The ability to let go of your ego and how goofy I might sound and just experiment fully and freely with your voice. That's literally how I got here, was just getting in the car, not giving a shit how it was coming out, but figuring out how to get it out. So props to you for being a great vocal teacher that isn't afraid to go there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, let's listen to the more of this.
yeah, of course.
There is a place in my dreams that I should never go. Familiar faces I don't recognize at all. I hear them call out to me when I am all alone. Forever haunted by the ghosts inside my walls.
That's a cool sounding layer. The cleans with the stuff on the sides. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh man, I was hoping you'd like that part.
I'm sure we'll hear more of this when we get the isolated tracks or when I really dig in there, but I don't think it can be overlooked that these beefy things that you're doing with your voice allow you to be a little thinner and lighter up here and still have it sound thick.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh
it's like,
yeah. Nail on the head, man. Exactly. Yeah. Because, and I plan this too, like, my thought process with choosing these parts and what's going to be the main and what's going to go in the back, it revolves around that concept where, like, I still want it to be, big and beefy and thick, but I want to be able to build that with pieces. And,
Sure.
And so when I'm layering in these higher bits, just that alone isn't the full sound. But then I know what I need to do to supplement that, or I guess just match the vision that I have in my brain to make it sound the way I want it.
Yeah, and so when you're laying down the main line or the main melody that's all the way up there, and you're listening back to it in the studio, you're not like, oh, that sounds too wimpy. You're like, oh,
Right.
that's part of the whole soundscape.
There's a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes with recording myself so often, which I would recommend for any vocalist to learn how to do, just to get to know your own voice and your strengths and weaknesses, because then you can learn how to piece different facets of your voice together in the best way. Everyone has a different skill set, and just spending a lot of time recording and layering, that allows you to plan your writing around that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it's so cool that you noticed that.
All right, listening on. That was a sweet echo, listening back. The clench factor on this song is, you know what it is? It's when you've got so much variety, we've got a catchy, hooky melody, and then we've got these sections where you've abandoned into these pitchless, low, brutality. We've got both. We've got tenderness, we've got brutality, we've got dynamics. I am always going to be one to love a melody. And so when we've got these extreme vocals with this sort of poppy melody, there's no better type of song for me. Like nothing better. It tugs on my heart
All right.
in so many more ways than something that's like just singing or just screaming. When you've got both of them.
That's the goal.
Is Nick joining you on some screams?
There you go. Yeah, I was hoping you'd pick up on that. So that final chorus has Nick doing some of the echoes, the call and response screams. Yeah, and he's really been working on it over the past few years to find his own screaming voice, and so as that's been happening, I've been trying to find ways to insert it best into our songs and pepper it in when we can.
Cool. So he's actually in there, doing the lows.
Like,
yeah,
like
okay.
That's him. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. That's a whole new appreciation for the end here. Now, are you layered on top of him, or are those lows all Nick that we hear?
That's just him.
Wow,
those
good job,
are
Nick.
Just a Nick layer, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Great.
I know, he's great.
And just to be clear, Nick was, he wasn't doing anything on the video either, but earlier that was all you. So it's just on this last part that Nick has come in. And are Nick's screams on the isolated vocals too that we can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they'll be in there. You'll be able to hear those.
That's some Chester Bennington sizzle right there, if I ever heard it.
Yes, exactly, my friend.
That's
difficult.
That's difficult to get that high, right? I mean, that's a high compressed note, compressed to the point where it's breaking up, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that compression, that breakup is what drives the the thickness of it.
Yeah.
Because if I'm pulling back and just doing that note cleanly, again, like we were talking about, it's rather thin. It's not like super chesty sounding, chestery sounding. But but when you when you drive that compression and that distortion in there, it creates rich overtones that basically trick anyone into thinking, wow, that's full chest. Really, it's a lot more effortless than just trying to push your chest to the max. It's as you know, it's just a sort of an illusory way to do it.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, an illusory way, because you're actually, you're not driving as hard as if you were just trying to pull your chest all the way up there,
right.
But you're also getting the grit, and you're in your mixed voice, so the compressed mix is one of the least effort sounds, but probably one of the greatest payoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. The thing is, it takes a certain level of control and just having been there a lot in your journey in order to tap into that without,
Right.
You're just trying to find that. But the amount of experience behind it makes it so that you can hide stuff in there. And again, a casual listener, they'll be like, what are they doing there? How the hell is, and that's kind of the job. It's like mission accomplished. If you can't tell that it's just a distorted head voice type of thing.
Right. Because part of that's production. Part of that is breathing in support. And there's a lot going on there.
All right.
Oh, that's it? Oh man. Yeah, I am really looking forward to digging into those isolated tracks.
I can't wait for you to check them out.
Wow. Thank you for providing those. Again, if you guys would like to also dive into the isolated vocals and pick apart even more what Andy's doing, and Nick, apparently, at the end, be sure to follow that link and download those tracks. It's free, completely free. So I want to ask about the video. How involved were you with the video making?
Basically like a little hands-on, hands-off. The videographer we work with, Patrick Lawler, is amazing at crafting these visual scapes based on the concept of the song. So we'll get together with him on a meeting. I'll send him my lyrics. I'll give him the gist of the song and what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And then he'll sort of come up with a treatment. And he'll say, all right, get this shot. And we're going to go for this style, film this shot. And I'll key in, these effects and these colors.
Right.
And, he's very much like a pioneer and a trailblazer in the way he's making videos. And he's doing many, many great videos and a lot of good work with tons of legendary bands for good reason. He just has such a vision. And we really only have to give him our own creative musical input, and he'll take it and run.
Oh, that's really awesome. So all the footage that we see that's not you guys, that's all his
yeah,
thing.
He's curating it or generating it, or he has many different techniques that are both AI assisted and just original.
Sure.
And he mixes and blends all those ideas together.
And for your footage, you're right there in that room on the green screen, properly lit, just going at it, and everything's put behind you. Wow.
And that's a huge benefit of the modern age, because Nick and I don't live anywhere near each other.
Yeah.
And so being able to do these on our own dime, it's really a blessing for introverts like us. Thanks
so much for coming on the channel at such short notice. Like, I just texted you after the video came out, and you're like, oh, sure. So that was awesome.
I'm absolutely thrilled to hear from you and absolutely stoked to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, again, download those tracks for free. And there's more coming from Andy and I in the near future. So stay tuned to both our channels and social media stuff for more information. Talk soon.
All right. Thank you.